She thought he was just a quiet old man who came for coffee every morning. But when his lawyers walked in with 4 bodyguards, holding a key and a secret address, she discovered he had left her something far more dangerous than money. What she found inside that house changed everything, and revealed a truth no one was ever meant to see. The small diner smelled of coffee and buttered toast. It was always warm inside, no matter how cold the morning got. Emily wiped the counter as the doorbell chimed. The same old man shuffled in, wearing his brown coat and that faded green scarf. He smiled, weak but kind. "Morning, Miss Emily," he said softly. "Morning, Mr. Harris," she replied, pouring his usual black coffee. He always sat at the same booth, by the window. He always ordered the same breakfast, oatmeal with honey, 2 slices of toast, and a single boiled egg. He never spoke much, just thanked her quietly, then left a small tip wrapped in a napkin. Every day, without fail. But that morning felt different. The sun had not yet broken through the clouds. The air seemed heavier, quieter. Mr. Harris was not there. His booth sat empty, the window fogged over from the cold. Emily kept glancing at the door, expecting him to appear with his usual slow smile. He did not. Hours passed. By noon, she began to worry. He had never missed a day. As she stacked plates behind the counter, the doorbell rang again. But it was not Mr. Harris. 4 men in dark suits stepped inside. They moved with silent precision, scanning the room. Behind them came another man, sharply dressed, carrying a leather briefcase. The diner grew still. Even the hum of conversation died down. "Are you Emily Cole?" the lawyer asked, his tone calm but commanding. Her heart raced. "Yes. I am," she said, her voice trembling slightly. He nodded once. "I represent the estate of Mr. Arthur Harris." She froze. The name hit her like cold water. The lawyer placed the briefcase on the counter and opened it slowly. Inside were sealed envelopes, documents, and a single worn photograph, Mr. Harris smiling beside a younger version of himself, standing before a grand mansion. Emily's stomach twisted. She could smell the faint leather and paper, the sterile scent of new ink. What is this?" she asked. The lawyer's eyes met hers. "Mr. Harris passed away 3 days ago." The room blurred for a moment. Her throat tightened. She could almost hear his quiet laugh, the clink of his coffee cup. The lawyer continued, his voice steady. "He left behind specific instructions. You are to receive something today." Emily's hands trembled. The 4 bodyguards stood motionless, watching. The lawyer pulled out a key, an old, heavy one with a brass tag attached. The tag read, "For the kindest soul." Emily stared at it, unable to breathe properly. Her mind raced, the breakfasts, the quiet mornings, the gentle thank yous. What does it open?" she asked quietly. The lawyer gave a faint smile, one that did not reach his eyes. "That is for you to find out, Miss Cole. But I can tell you this, it is not just a door." Her pulse thudded in her ears. The sound of the rain outside grew louder. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. He slid a piece of paper toward her. An address. Her name printed neatly beneath it. The lawyer closed the briefcase, adjusted his coat, and turned to leave. The 4 bodyguards followed him out, silent as shadows. Emily stood frozen behind the counter. The key felt heavy in her palm, colder than metal should be. She glanced at the address again. It was in the outskirts of town, near the old bridge. A place she had never been. The wind rattled the diner's windows. Outside, the black car waited, engine humming softly. Then the lawyer paused at the door and looked back at her. His words were quiet, but they sliced through the silence. "He said you once told him kindness costs nothing. He wanted to prove you wrong." Emily's breath caught. The door closed behind them. And in the booth by the window, where Mr. Harris always sat. His coffee cup still waited, half full, steam long gone. She reached out to clear it. But something underneath the cup caught her eye, a folded note. And her name written in trembling, familiar handwriting. Her fingers shook as she unfolded the note. The paper was thin, the ink slightly smudged, as if written in haste. Emily, it began. If you are reading this, it means I am finally free of time. She blinked hard, her chest tightening. The letters danced before her eyes, the edges of the page damp from her trembling hands. You once told me that no one should eat alone. You brought warmth to an old man who had forgotten what kindness felt like. I could not repay you then, but I can now. She swallowed, her throat dry as dust. Outside, rain streaked down the glass, distorting the world beyond the window. The note continued. The address is a place I once called home. It holds more than memories. You will need the key. She read the last line twice. It was written in a faint, shaky scrawl. Do not go alone. Her breath hitched. She glanced around the diner, empty now except for the faint buzz of the ceiling fan. The sound of the rain was louder, insistent, like a whisper urging her to move. She tucked the note into her apron pocket and held the key tightly. It was heavier now, as though it carried the weight of his last words. By evening, the streets glistened under dim yellow lamps. Her car's wipers squeaked against the windshield, struggling to keep up with the downpour. She followed the address, her hands gripping the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white. The road narrowed into a lonely stretch lined with trees. Branches reached out like dark fingers in the rain. At last, she saw it. An old iron gate, half swallowed by vines. And behind it, a grand estate shrouded in mist. The headlights cut across broken statues and overgrown grass. The house loomed, tall and silent, its windows dark. Emily hesitated. Every instinct told her to turn back. But something deeper, a quiet pull in her chest, urged her forward. She stepped out of the car, the rain soaking through her jacket in seconds. The gate groaned as she pushed it open. Her boots crunched on the gravel path as thunder rumbled above. The key felt warm now in her hand, as if alive. When she reached the front door, she paused. The lock was old, brass, and covered in tarnish. But the key slid in perfectly. For a moment, the world went silent. Then came the soft click of the lock turning. The door opened slowly, revealing a vast hallway lined with portraits. Dust floated in the beam of her flashlight, twisting like ghosts. She stepped inside. The air smelled of old wood and something faintly metallic. Her reflection wavered in a large mirror near the stairs. Behind her, in the glass, she thought she saw a shadow move. Just a flicker, like someone passing by. Her heart leapt. She turned sharply. Nothing. Only the echo of her own breathing. Then she saw it. On a table beneath the staircase. A single envelope, sealed with red wax, and a small brass plaque beside it. The plaque read, "For the one who stayed when everyone else left." Emily reached for the envelope, her fingers trembling. The wax broke easily under her thumb. Inside was a letter, and a document stamped with a golden seal. But before she could read the words, a sound came from deeper inside the house. A faint creak. Then another. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. Getting closer. Her flashlight flickered. Her breath came short and fast. She turned toward the sound, the letter still in her hand. And saw a figure standing at the end of the hall. Tall. Still. Watching her. And in the dim light, she could swear. It was Mr. Harris. Her breath froze in her chest. The beam of her flashlight trembled, cutting through the dust and shadows. The figure did not move. He simply stood there, his outline faint but unmistakable, the shape of a coat she knew too well, the slope of shoulders that had always seemed weary yet kind. "Mr. Harris?" she whispered, her voice barely a sound. The word echoed faintly through the corridor, swallowed by the hollow air. The figure tilted its head, just slightly. Then, as lightning flashed through the windows, it was gone. Her flashlight flickered once more before steadying. The hallway was empty again. Her pulse hammered in her ears. She backed toward the table, gripping the letter as though it could anchor her. "Get a hold of yourself," she muttered, her voice shaking. It was an old house. Shadows. Dust. Her imagination. She unfolded the letter. The handwriting was the same, elegant, deliberate, but frail. "Emily," it read. "If you are standing here, then you have already seen what I left behind." Her eyes darted nervously around the room. The silence felt too thick, too deliberate, as if the house itself was listening. "I spent my final years hiding from the world," the letter continued. "Not because of age, but because of fear. This place holds what people would have killed to find." A chill crept down her spine. Her fingers brushed the edge of the other paper inside, the document. It was a property deed. Her name was printed at the bottom, beside a signature in neat, deliberate ink, Arthur Harris. The room swayed slightly as the meaning sank in. The estate was hers. She stumbled back a step, clutching the letter. Why me?" she whispered. The thunder answered, cracking through the silence. The chandelier above rattled slightly, sending a rain of dust to the floor. Then, from somewhere upstairs, came another sound. A door creaking open. She looked up toward the grand staircase. The faint light from her torch reached just far enough to show the first few steps. But the rest of the hall above was swallowed in blackness. She hesitated, every muscle urging her to run. But something stronger, the same strange pull that had brought her here, made her lift her foot to the first stair. The wood groaned beneath her weight. Each step echoed through the house, louder than her heartbeat. At the top of the stairs, a hallway stretched long and narrow. Portraits lined both sides, faces of strangers, all wearing the same haunted expression. Her light caught a door at the end, slightly ajar. A faint golden glow spilled from the crack beneath it. Her breath trembled. She reached the door and pushed it open. Inside was a small study. Bookshelves lined the walls, and in the center stood a desk covered in dust. But on the desk, something shone faintly, a small wooden box with the same brass tag as the key. "For the kindest soul." Her hand shook as she unlocked it. Inside, instead of jewels or money, there was a stack of yellowed papers and an old photograph. The photo was of a young woman, smiling in a waitress's uniform. It took her a moment to realize it was her. But the photo was old. Older than it should have been. Her heart pounded. She turned over the picture, a message scrawled on the back. "Time is not always what it seems." The light flickered again. Behind her, the study door creaked shut on its own. And a voice, low and calm, spoke from the dark corner of the room. "You are not supposed to come here alone, Emily. You said." Her entire body went rigid. The voice was deep, slow, and carried the weight of sorrow. She spun around, the beam of her flashlight slicing through the air. The corner of the room was swallowed in darkness. "Who's there?" she demanded, though her voice trembled. The air felt heavy, pressing against her chest. Each breath came shorter, sharper. The light shook in her hand as she aimed it at the shadowed corner. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then a figure stepped forward, half hidden, half seen. He was dressed in the same brown coat. The same faded scarf. His eyes, soft, but impossibly hollow. It was Mr. Harris. Her throat closed. You're not real," she whispered. But the scent of old coffee and cedar drifted toward her, the same smell that used to linger at his booth every morning. "I told you not to come alone," he said quietly. His voice was calm, yet carried something else beneath, urgency. Regret. Emily stepped back, her shoulders brushing the desk. "What is this?" "You're gone. They said you were gone." He took another step closer. The floor creaked beneath his shoes, the sound painfully real. "Gone," he said softly, "does not mean finished." Her pulse thundered in her ears. "What do you want from me?" He looked at her, really looked. In his eyes was something that made her chest tighten, sadness deeper than years. I wanted to leave something good behind, he said. But goodness draws attention. And not all attention is kind. His gaze drifted to the window. Beyond the rain-streaked glass, she could see headlights in the distance, a car approaching slowly up the long, muddy drive. Who is that? She asked, turning toward the window. But when she looked back at him, the space where he stood was empty. The scent of coffee was gone. Only the faint rustle of paper remained. Her flashlight flickered again, and she realized one of the papers from the box had fallen to the floor. It was another letter, this one sealed, but with her name printed in bold, dark ink. Her fingers tore it open, heart pounding. The writing inside was rushed, uneven, as though written in fear. Emily, it began. If they come for the house, do not let them in. The key is more than you think. It does not only open doors, it keeps others closed. A cold shiver raced down her back. The headlights outside grew brighter. The sound of tires on gravel echoed through the silence. Her eyes darted to the window again. 3 figures stepped out of the car. Dark suits. Umbrellas. And one of them, she recognized. The lawyer. The same one who had handed her the key. Only now, he was not carrying a briefcase. He was holding something else, a crowbar. Emily's breath hitched. The paper in her hand trembled. Then, from the front of the house, came a sharp metallic crash. The sound of the front door being forced open. She froze. Rain hammered against the windows. Her heart thudded so hard she could feel it in her throat. Then, faintly, just barely, Mr. Harris's voice whispered close to her ear. They cannot find the box. Emily's breath caught in her throat. The whisper was so close, she felt the air move beside her cheek, warm for a heartbeat, then gone. She turned, her flashlight darting wildly across the room. Nothing. Only the long shadows trembling against the old wallpaper. Downstairs, another crash echoed, louder this time. Wood splintering. Heavy footsteps. Voices, low and tense, moving through the entryway. Check the study, one of them said. Her blood turned cold. She backed away from the door, clutching the box to her chest. The papers inside rustled softly, as if alive. Her mind raced, there had to be another way out. The windows were too high, the frame too old to open quietly. Her eyes swept across the room, and landed on a small door near the corner, half hidden behind a curtain. It looked like a storage space or a passage. She ran toward it, heart hammering. The knob was stiff, rusted, but the key, the same brass one, fit perfectly. It turned with a soft click. The door opened into darkness. A narrow staircase spiraled downward, smelling of damp stone and old earth. She stepped inside, closing the door behind her just as the study door above burst open. The echo of footsteps filled the room she had just left. Search everything, the lawyer's voice commanded. She must not leave with it. Emily's pulse roared in her ears as she crept down the steps, one slow step at a time. The walls grew colder, the air thicker. At the bottom, her light revealed a small cellar, stone walls, cobwebs, and what looked like a second wooden door built into the floor. It had the same brass emblem as the box. The same words. For the kindest soul. Her hand shook as she fit the key into the lock once more. It turned easily, as though waiting for her. The floor door lifted with a groan, revealing a narrow shaft lined with stone. A faint golden glow came from below. She hesitated, then climbed down. The moment her feet touched the ground, the glow brightened. She found herself standing in a small chamber filled with stacks of old ledgers, photographs, and envelopes. All labeled. All bearing the Harris name. It was not treasure. It was something bigger, records. Proof. Documents detailing names, transactions, dates, and accounts, hidden fortunes, maybe even crimes. Her breath came fast. He had not left her money. He had left her secrets. Above her, the sound of footsteps grew sharper. They were searching the upper floors now. The house creaked with their movements. Emily opened one of the ledgers, flipping through the yellowed pages. And froze when she saw her own name listed. Emily Cole, beneficiary, access granted. A low rumble filled the chamber. The floor vibrated beneath her feet. Dust rained down from the ceiling. Something mechanical was shifting behind the stone walls. And then she heard it. The faint click of a hidden lock disengaging somewhere behind her. A door she had not seen before began to open slowly. Cold air rushed out, carrying a faint metallic scent. Her flashlight beam landed on what lay beyond. A narrow corridor leading to a steel vault door. And on it, carved deep into the metal, the words, "Everything has a price, Emily." Her hands went numb. The words on the steel door gleamed faintly in the golden light. Her reflection shimmered across the cold surface, pale, wide-eyed, trembling. She took a step closer. The air that leaked from the crack around the vault was icy, sharp, almost humming. Every instinct screamed for her to turn back. But curiosity pressed harder than fear. Behind her, the rumbling above continued. Voices echoed faintly, the men were still searching, their steps growing more frantic. She had little time. Her flashlight beam slid over the vault door and caught a small indentation in the center. A keyhole. Brass. Old. Exactly like the others. The same key that had opened every lock so far. Emily hesitated, staring at it. The note in her apron pocket burned in her memory. The key does not only open doors. It keeps others closed. Her hand hovered. If she turned it now, she might open something that was never meant to be touched. But if she left, everything she had seen, everything Mr. Harris had hidden, would be lost forever. Another crash thundered through the house. The men were closer. She could hear one of them shouting orders. Her choice vanished. Emily slid the key into the vault's lock and turned. The sound was unlike any lock she had ever heard, deep, metallic, alive. The air shuddered. A faint pulse moved through the walls, like the house itself had taken a breath. Then, with a slow groan, the vault door began to open. Light spilled out, not gold this time, but white. Cold. Blinding. It filled the small chamber, pushing back every shadow. Emily raised her arm to shield her eyes. When her vision cleared, she saw that the vault did not lead to another room. It led downward, a spiral stairway made of iron, sinking into what looked like endless light. And on the first step lay something small, a pocket watch. It was open, its hands ticking backward. Her pulse quickened. She reached out and picked it up. The moment her fingers touched the glass, the ticking stopped. A voice whispered from behind her. This time, not soft, urgent. "Emily, do not go further." She turned. Mr. Harris stood in the narrow corridor again, but this time, he looked different. The calmness was gone. His expression was strained, almost fearful. "You opened it," he said, voice breaking. "You were never supposed to." Her heart pounded. "You left the key, you told me to come here." "I told you to find kindness," he said, stepping closer. "Not to unleash it." The light behind her pulsed brighter, spilling across the walls. The pages and papers in the chamber began to flutter as if caught in a sudden wind. "What is down there?" she asked, her voice shaking. His gaze dropped to the pocket watch still frozen in her hand. "What I spent a lifetime keeping locked away." The floor trembled. Somewhere above, she heard a shout, one of the men crying out in alarm. Then, silence. Harris's figure flickered, like a reflection in water. His voice softened, breaking. "I gave you the key because I thought you would be the last person to use it. The one person who would leave it closed." The air grew colder. The light was swallowing the walls now. Papers ripped from the shelves and spun upward like leaves in a storm. The vault door began to shut on its own, slowly, heavily. Emily stared at him, her voice trembling. What happens if it closes? He looked at her with eyes that no longer seemed human. If it closes now, he whispered. You will not be the one who leaves. And before she could move, the door slammed shut. The sound of the vault ceiling echoed through the chamber like thunder, then faded into a silence so deep it pressed against her ears. Emily stood frozen in the pale light, the pocket watch clenched tightly in her hand. The air had gone still. The papers that had been whirling moments before now drifted softly to the ground. She turned slowly. The iron door was closed, solid, unmoving. No handle. No lock. Just smooth, cold metal and her reflection staring back. Mr. Harris, she whispered. But there was no reply. Only her own voice, trembling, swallowed by the emptiness. Then she noticed something. The pocket watch in her hand began to tick again, this time, forward. Its rhythm was steady, calm. And the faint light filling the chamber started to fade, replaced by a gentle, golden warmth. For the first time since entering the house, she did not feel afraid. The weight in her chest eased. She looked around at the stacks of papers, the secrets, the legacy left behind, and realized what he had meant. The vault was never meant to guard wealth. It guarded a truth, a lifetime of mistakes, hidden so others would never repeat them. And she, the kindest soul, had been chosen not to open it, but to understand it. As the light dimmed completely, she found herself standing once more in the study upstairs. The rain had stopped. The windows glowed faintly with the first hint of dawn. The house was silent. The men were gone. Only the old wooden box rested on the desk, closed, untouched. Emily set the key beside it. She no longer needed to know what was inside, she already did. Outside, the sky turned soft with morning light. She stepped through the front door and looked back at the mansion one last time. It stood quiet, dignified, as if watching her leave. Somewhere deep within, a faint ticking echoed, the same rhythm as the pocket watch now tucked safely in her pocket. She smiled, just barely. Goodbye, Mr. Harris, she said softly. Then she walked down the long path toward the waking town. The sound of her footsteps blending with the whisper of the wind. Carrying with her the strange, silent gift of a man who had once been alone. And the lesson that kindness, when given freely, can open far more than any lock.